Hi YouTube family, welcome back to my channel, welcome back to another video. I want to talk about a video, and I'm scared to do reaction videos, y'all, because I've been reading all this stuff about copyright, copyright strikes and stuff like that. But I want to react to a video that I saw and kind of paraphrase some things and see what you guys think about it. I thought it was an interesting topic to talk about. You all have been seeing in the news lately. I forget the gentleman's name that's going through something. He's a black, I think, a sports commentator. Drop me a comment if you know the guy's name. But he's caught up in something with, I don't know if he was dating the young lady, something with a young lady who is not black. I believe she's Caucasian. So he's caught up in some mess with that. So there's a lot of things that have been going around social media about why I guess black men prefer white women or something to that effect. And then I came across this. This guy was reacting to another video. It was like I said, everybody gets everything from TikTok. They call it toxic TikTok. But he was reacting to a young lady. Well, I don't say young. She's probably middle-aged lady. So she's younger than me, so I'm gonna say young lady. Reacting to her video about something she had experienced while she was in a barbershop. So I guess she had shorter hair or something. So I guess that's why she was in the barbershop to get her hair cut. And she said a young man had walked into the barbershop, and he was a very handsome young man. I guess he was like in his early to mid 20s. And he was talking about he is going to be getting married. And he's going to be getting married to a young lady, and I believe it was a Caucasian young lady. And he was talking about how his family, were kind of upset about it and didn't like it. And so he was having to deal with that. And he was saying, he was getting a lot of pushback from his family members, like they couldn't understand why, that was his choice when, there were so many other young, attractive, beautiful black women available. And this young man, I forgot to mention, he's college educated. I believe he's going to school for engineering. So, engineers make a lot of money. He has potential. I don't know if I think he was still in school, so I don't know if he was, making money at that point. Probably not. But he has that potential because engineers, they get paid a whole bunch of money. And so the family was upset, like, why don't you go find you a nice young black lady to marry? And, his response, and I don't know if he told his family members this, but his response to the gentleman in the barbershop was, he said he can't deal with that because all his life he grew up in a single parent household, and his whole family is full of, what did he say? Now, I'm paraphrasing, this is their words, not mine. But he said the whole family was full of a bunch of chaotic, disruptive black women. The whole family was disruptive and chaotic. And he didn't want to deal with that. So in his mind, if he were to date or marry a young black woman, then that would just continue, and he doesn't want that in his life. And the young lady that was listening, actually, basically, she was eavesdropping in on a conversation. She said that just blew her mind. And I think she was triggered by that because it was like he was putting a label on all black women, saying that all black women are chaotic, all black women are disruptive. And we all know that's not true, but that is a stereotype that's out there. That's the narrative that's out there. And so she was triggered by that. And then he said by marrying the Caucasian lady that the opposite was occurring, and that her family was totally opposite. Everything was calm and peaceful. They go on family vacations, they have dinners together, and there's no dysfunction or chaos that occurs. And I just thought that was interesting. I mean, I don't necessarily think that is a race thing. I think that's just how you're brought up, whether you're black or white, Latina, Asian, it doesn't matter. I think that's just how you're brought up because there's a lot of Latina, other races, people of other races, fill in the blank, that come from dysfunctional, chaotic, disruptive families. So we all know that they're out there, and that has nothing to do with the color of your skin. But to give this young man grace, I mean, he is young, he has a lot to experience. And I think, in my opinion, I think it's too young for him to make that, to come to that conclusion and to put a label on, black women and to not give them a chance based off of his experience. And that's just what I got out of the whole thing. Being in your 20s, mid 20s, I mean, you haven't met and you haven't experienced life. Because who's to say, 5 to 10 years from now that, the Caucasian, things could turn, in her family, things can become disruptive and chaotic and, all the things he's trying to run away from, her family could become that and that could develop. I mean, you just never know. So to me, that's a lesson out of that story. But I just thought that was interesting. And, of course, there were a lot of comments, and I think it triggered a lot of people, especially with what's going on with, and I can't think of that gentleman's name, that sports commentator, and there's a lot of narratives out there where it's like, black men, they just want peace, and that's why they're going to white women and all this. I mean, I don't think it's a race thing, but there are some white women that have families that are dysfunctional, y'all. So I don't know if that is a correct thing to be putting out there, but that just seems to be out there floating. I do see a lot of videos and things on social media where I think black women do get a bad rep. It's a lot of it's based on stereotypes, and it could be, and a lot of it is based on people's personal experiences. But that's, unique to that person. So just because you experience something negative, with a certain race of people or a certain culture, that doesn't mean everybody that's a member of that race or that culture is like that. So I just don't think that's fair. And I think that's a little bit, I don't know what the word is, what I want to say. Well, I know what I want to say, but, I don't want to be divisive and, go against the guidelines that YouTube has set forth. But it's just not something that I think we should be putting out there based off of your own unique experience. Now, it just seems like collectively, I think a whole bunch of men got together and they were like, oh, yeah, that's true. That's what I experienced. That's what I experienced. But that doesn't necessarily, again, that you just can't group everybody into one category and say, all black women are loud, all black women are, I don't know, what, you guys know what they're out there saying about us. We're loud. What is it? We're disruptive is, I guess you used the adjective I used earlier. We're bossy. What is another one they say about us? We're bossy. We're masculine. Yeah, there's a whole bunch, there's a whole bunch out there. But a lot of it has to do with, going back to how somebody was brought up, right? Sometimes people, and I know white women that fit those adjectives too, but again, it's how they were brought up and what you had to deal with. Because a lot of people, grew up, and don't matter what race you are, you grow up in a disruptive household, or you grow up in a single parent household, you're going to have issues there. There are going to be some issues, and there are going to be some things that you're overcome. And, we all know that a majority of the, I want to say the black households are run by single family parents. So that, I mean, it's a sad statistics, but I mean, it is. I don't know what the number is, y'all. I think I've heard anywhere from like 70 to 80%, of children are born out of wedlock in the black community. I don't know. Don't quote me on that, but it's a high statistics compared to other races. But that's where I think a lot of those, that's the word I was looking for, a lot of those stereotypes come from. Because, when you are brought up in a single family household, you tend to take on a certain personality, or you have certain issues that apparently people who come from a two-parent household don't have. I don't know. Maybe we can get my daughter on here and we can interview her again, because she grew up in a two-parent household. I've been married to her dad for a lot of years, 30 plus. I'm not gonna say exactly because you know you guys know how old I am. Well, I already told you guys how old I was, but I was a child bride, so I got married very young. But I say all that to say, you know, she grew up in a two-parent household, so I guess we can interview her and let her give you her spin on, you know, what it's like. And you know, my son, they both had the same dad. There's a big age difference between the two of them. There's a 13-year age gap. They had the same father, y'all. I do get that a lot. People are like, "Oh, did you guys or did you get divorced or did you divorce?" They think my daughter has a different dad than my son because they think because of the big age difference that I got divorced and remarried and then we had my son. And no, they have the same dad. There's just a big age gap. He was a surprise. You know, 13 years later, but I can tell you, I can only tell you my experience. In my experience, you know, I wasn't brought up in a two-parent household either. I was actually brought up, and I told you guys this before, by my grandmother. So I wasn't brought up by neither my mother or my father. So I have my own separate issues. And of course, I bring those issues with me and wherever I go. And I can tell you that, yes, my kids were brought up in a two-parent household, but we have issues too. We have our own issues, and I can do a whole nother video about those issues, but we're not going to get into that right now. But those issues versus somebody who was brought up in a single parent household, and that would be a good video I could do. Maybe I can get her and her husband to get on here because her husband, he comes from a single parent household, I believe. I think he has some step fathers and things in there in the situation, but I think for the most part, he came from a single parent household. So he grew up a lot differently than she did, and they have different backgrounds as far as that is concerned, as far as the family dynamic. But I could get them both on here maybe to talk to you all about how they feel about, you know, those different narratives and things that are out there. So that would be interesting conversation. That would be interesting video. But yeah, it's I don't know, y'all. What do you guys think? I think it is rare to see, especially nowadays, because people, you know, in all races don't stay married, you know, past, I don't know, what is the average? I think the average marriage, and I did a video about marriage is a scam too, but I think the average marriage lasts about 15, 16 years, if that long, and then people tend to go their separate ways. So that's in all races, y'all. So I think what they're talking about, though, is not so much when people get divorced. I think what they're talking about is when kids grow up out of wedlock and the mother was never married to the father. And I think, you know, that's a whole different dynamic, and that creates a whole different narrative for people who grew up that way. So I would be included in that, you know, in that statistic too, because I was born out of wedlock as well. So I don't know, y'all. Is this whole thing about, you know, black women, like I said, we get a bad rep. I don't know. You guys tell me what you think. I don't think it's warranted. I don't think it's fair. But you guys tell me what you think. Please like and subscribe if you like this video, and we can talk some more on this issue. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.